things are completed and when new things begin. How many declaration of principles are there? Okay, this side say ooh, this side say ah. 1, 2, 3. That was pathetic. All right. We kept my granddaughters, 2 of them, and they go to Annunciation Catholic Church, and they left the bookmark. So Pope Leo says hello since this lesson. All right, so, you know, I'm retired. I'm 70 years old. I retired when I was 62. But before I retired, I bought. This concludes my presentation. Spirit's going, shut up. Let me start over. You got to laugh. I mean, so I retired when I was 62, but I sold pet food for like 35 years. And I was an account manager, and I used to buy every business book known to humankind. But I only read, because I have ADD, you'll figure that out here in a few minutes. I only read about the first 15 to 20 pages. I liked the titles to see what energy there was behind the titles, and that's how I write. I come up with a title, see what Spirit leads me to say. I did have a copy of this on the lunchroom reception. All right, one of the business books that I bought, I've since donated them. One of the business books I bought, only from there, is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Anybody ever heard of that business book? Yeah. Okay, all right, that's why I give it away. And this book talked about the next phase of your business life. It also talked about the next phase of your personal life. Like, what got you here, there's plans for you to go somewhere else. And numerology is sometimes we mention numerology. 2025, 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 5 is 9. So this is the year of completing things and beginning new things. And what got you here won't get you there is also a call to be thinking forward, to be thinking differently. Right? When I discovered, let's see if I can do that without looking at my notes. Forget it. So, I'm not like a lot of you. I didn't discover my gifts when I was young and so forth. I discovered my gifts in my late 50s. I attended a circle led by Emilio and Annette. Emilio and Annette were 2 of my biggest mentors. And for some reason, I'm not going to say ladies and gentlemen, because there's only 2 of us here. That's why the energy's so high. Guys kind of mess up the energy, but that's okay. You know, I do these spirit fests. Have you ever been to a spirit fest that they have? Oh, there's a no one back there. I'm sorry. Thank you. Because of you, sir, I will start over. I'm sorry, sir. You snuck in at the end, didn't you? No. I need my answer. I apologize, sir. It's funny, when I started on this journey of metaphysics, first gift I learned was clairvoyant. Then that led to mediumship and psychic, intuitive, and all that. But I had this thing, it was like a drumbeat in the back of my mind that was small at first. And then it got a little bit louder and said, you're probably going to do this for about 10 or 11 years, and then you're going to be called to do something else. I dismissed it. Signs from Spirit sometimes, most of the time, are very subtle. And it's like a little drum beat that kind of gets a little bit louder and louder. And I know I stood up here, I've been coming here, oh gosh, about 7, 8, 9 years. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk. Catholic Church is not going to let me talk about somebody's dead grandmother saying hi. I don't think it's good to. But I stood up here. I've stood up here and I've said, I think multiple times, I'm not going to be doing this forever. Meaning, because the readings that I do, I am so impressed, especially with the younger people, especially a lot of you have gifts that just blow me away, which means it's time to use those gifts. Whether you're up here, whether you help somebody, I think the best thing we can do is help people one-on-one. Right? I like big crowds, so hopefully somebody will hear the message the Spirit has to say. And I've said it in my readings. with the young people that I do, with everybody that I do readings with, I said, I'm not going to be doing this forever. And that meant I had another calling. I always write about 8 or 9 pages, and I'm impressed how I can just buzz right through them. Leaves more time for messages, right? And I kept thinking, why do I keep saying this? Ladies and gentlemen. Triangle, get it? Triangle. Why is that drum beat getting louder? I've had several people who aren't connected to each other make a comment, something like spirit and God, infinite intelligence. I don't think God cares what you call God. Some people say higher power. I think that's fine. I don't think God really cares what you call God. So you call God, as long as we know God is not a he, not a she. God is energy. God is everything, right? That's my interpretation. And I kept thinking, why is this drum beat getting louder? What are they calling me to do? Well, when Spirit said, we want you to write a book. Now, to me, Spirit is God's breath of divine energy. It doesn't have to be anybody else's definition of Spirit. Everybody has a different definition of Spirit. And I went, well, I don't like books. My wife, I think it was last year sometime, gave me a book about this thick. I said, would you read a book if I gave it to you? And I said, yeah, I didn't see the book. And she pulled out a book about this thick. I went, I won't get past the introduction. I just don't. And so I write books for people like me who don't want to go from beginning to end and go through 200 or 300 pages. Right? So, the Spirit said, we want you to write a book. I went, okay, but this will be the only book I write, called Channeling Mothership Messages from the Universe. And the Spirit said, no, this won't be the only one. I want you to write another book. As Annette mentioned, I spent 8 months in the hospital. Trust me, there's people there a lot worse than I was. They eventually get a heart and a kidney transplant. I gave messages to nurses, to surgeons, and at one point I was in a coma partially the first 45 days, and so I don't remember a whole lot. And Mary said they were lined up. So I think a message or a reading should offer clarity, comfort, and closure. Maybe not answers. I wish readings that I offer, messages, I wish I had all the answers. I'm just like you. I don't have all the answers. And so, but this calling just kept getting louder and louder. I didn't know what it was. So I wrote my second book, and I enjoyed it, called Beyond the Rational Realm, Listen to Veil of the Spirit World. And those are really good books, but I don't think it's where Spirit wanted me to go. So finally, this last book, I'm just going to turn the page blindly, assuming I'm on. Yeah. Finally, this next book, completely different than the book I was going to write. And I thought I was supposed to write a book about religion, and then Spirit was going, how many books are out there about religion? Write something that will resonate with people. So I took a lot of chances in this book, especially with Christianity. I might lose some friends, but it's okay. I'll count you all as friends. You always welcome me back here, I know. So Spirit also gave me another line called Widen the Path but Narrow the Lane. Excuse me. And when it's time to widen the path and you're going on another path, I think of the metaphysical triangle, God, universe, and spirit. Now the acronym is GUS. That doesn't sound really like a great acronym, but it is what it is. And now I figured I've got to get on another path. And the only reason for me to get on another path is because I've got to create space, for the calling. And you only can go in another lane, even though those metaphysical gifts were true and dear to my heart, and they still are. Spirit said, but there's something else we want you to do, which is writing. And this book is the result of that. And there's going to be more books. And folks, I graduated from public high school in Tennessee, with a C average. Memphis, Tennessee, my hometown. Love it, but they got issues. But, and so, last night I was going, so what do I say? And Spirit said, well, Jerry, go over the steps of a calling. So, all right, so here's what I think are steps to a calling. I think everybody's called. You don't have to do this, but everybody's called. We have gifts, and we need to use them. First one, the signs are kind of subtle and consistent. You're kind of getting the same little message, but you're getting from different people. Now, if it's the same person giving you the message, you go, But if you're getting from different people and different places, or you see things that remind you of a calling, remind you of something that is deep within your soul. We'll go over numerology. There's a number that identifies with the soul and what it wants to accomplish in this lifetime. I believe in previous lives. I really do. So the signs are subtle and consistent. Second, start recognizing a pattern. It took me years. You know, like I said, I'm fairly new at this still. I've only been doing this about 11, 12 years. And I can look back now. We recognize patterns when we look back, right? It's hard to recognize patterns at the time. At least it is for me. It may not be for you. And I had to kind of piece together what that calling was. So that's number 3. Well, that's like number 2. We get a rough idea of what your calling is. Like, you're here for some reason. You know, I always said Spirit's called you here. I don't think you looked at who was speaking. You know, I got to see Jerry McDaniel speak. I've heard he's great. Okay, I just threw that in just to give myself a little. All right, number 3, if we answer yes to a calling, is there a path I need to go on? Because, you know, I discovered once that door is cracked, if you come here, that door is kind of cracked, and Spirit says, we can work with this person. I can work with this person. I say we and I, you know. I'm talking about divine breath. I can work with this person. Or we can work with this person. And we can help people. Because that's what it's designed to do, is help people. If you get in this to make money, take it from me, I have an LLC. Last year was a good year for us. I only lost $2,000. Yay! So, what do I need to do to answer the calling? And Spirit's not going to tell us, ladies and gentlemen. We have 4 gentlemen in the audience. I'm pretty stoked. Because just like a reading shouldn't provide answers. It's like, how many people here have kids that have gone to school? Not a whole lot. All right. I was going to say something a minute here, COVID. Start birthing babies. Okay, anyway. I upset my wife every time I think of Gone with the Wind. I say, Hattie McDaniel. She said, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies, and my wife gets upset because that's not Hattie McDaniel. Did you know Hattie McDaniel won an Academy Award for that? Did you know they wouldn't let her in the room? Did you know that? Because she was black, she had to come from the back and get it. So, I'm hoping it'll come a long way. Sometimes I don't know. So number 4, get on that path. And Spirit's going to gently lead you on that path. And the reason Spirit doesn't give an answer is because we have gifts. And in order for us to figure out what that path is, or what the calling is, we need to use our gifts. When I do Spirit Fest, I do a gallery reading. I'm not doing them anymore because I want to spend more time on this new path I'm on. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Inside the big room where you have readers, you might have 15, 20 readers. 99% of them are women, because you're connected to the universe just a lot better than guys are. You have, if you have a husband or a male friend or a male partner, they don't believe in women's intuition, you're going to have to go back and tell them it's real. I think you know it's real. Watch them get depressed real quick. So we get on this path. We start to figure out what is the mission and purpose. I heard at a Catholic church one time, a deacon was saying, the mission is discovering your gifts. The purpose is to use those gifts. We all have gifts. I'm looking at mediums out here. I'm looking at psychics, clairvoyants. I'm looking at healers. So it's up to us to use our gifts to help people. And number 5, once you're in the flow of the energy, you'll find that path has a flow. Get others to join you. Okay? Don't drag strangers off the street. That's going to create a division. And so go back to the original thing I said about the book. What got us here is not going to get us there. What got us here is great. Now you're here. Now how do we use those gifts? There was a story. I don't think it's true, but it's a great. I kind of like a fable or very short parable. There's a businessman, and you've probably heard the story. And he's early for a meeting. He's Catholic, I think. He went into a Catholic church. He was in another city, didn't know anything about the church, and sat down and kneeled. And he waited about 5-10 minutes. Nothing was happening. And he leans next to the person and says, when does the service start? And the person says, when we leave the building. So see, we're here, but now we got to use our gifts outside of here, right? Oh my God, right? Be like a puppy dog and just kind of do that. So we're called to go and pass. I think there's a reason we're here. The reason I love coming here is a warm, welcoming energy. And I speak at other places, and this is a warm, welcoming energy. So, I think I'm just about done. Okay, I am done. Well, unless I can read this right here, I think. And so the points are, you have a calling. The calling is not to get stagnant. The calling is not to be satisfied with what we're doing in terms of metaphysical gifts, in terms of spiritual gifts, there's probably some ministers out here too, that you have a calling. Once you embrace the calling, figure out what that is. I've said this before, I'll close with this. I'm a big fan of Richard Rohr. He is a Franciscan mystic, and I've attended his conferences out in Mexico. And he says, instead of trying too hard, instead of trying harder, surrender more. If you surrender to Spirit, okay, I grew up Protestant. I'm not doing an altar call here, okay, so don't get worried. But we surrender to Spirit and just say, okay, just use me for however I can help people. Look at the world today. God knows they need help, but we can't help unless we do it one person at a time. Make sense? Make sense?
Yes.
All right, thank you for coming here this morning, and I look forward to doing messages later.